That's a very interesting comment because your government form is a dictatorship and not democratic. This is your favorite half Chinese. Well, that's a false statement. I assume you mean the government of China. I don't live in China, unfortunately. I live in the Netherlands, in Europe, which is in itself not a democracy. It's only a democracy in words, not in action. And similar goes for the United States. The United States in itself is not a democracy at all. The people have no say in whatever their government is doing. Literally zero say in that. So for as far as democracy goes, you first need to understand what democracy means. It is by the people and for the people. So if the people have no say in their government, then it is not a government that is democratic. So there is the difference between China and the United States, and that is also why you cannot find the word democratic or democracy in the Constitution of the United States, neither in the Bill of Rights. And we can also see it in the 2016 election, where Donald Trump lost the popular vote, but somehow he became the president. That's not very democratic, as the people didn't want him to be the president. It was very clear with over almost 3 million votes, right? That Hillary got more than Donald Trump had. So as far as going for a democracy, the United States, make no mistake, is not a democracy. The American people have no say in any policies. If they had, then most likely the United States wasn't sending weapons to a country in the Middle East that is unaliving so many people right now as of today. Yeah, because if we see the amount of protests going on in the United States, why is the United States doing that? It is very obvious that the people don't want that to happen. So there's no democracy. So what are you even talking about? But let me explain about democracy, why it is the truth in China. In China, all the people in government are being voted in at the lowest level by the people. All of them. And then they just go up and up and up and up due to their merit. Now, ordinary citizens do not have the perspective to see what is really going on inside of a government. Therefore, it isn't wise for ordinary people to vote for such high positions, because it's only the people who are working in those positions who know whether this person is competent or not competent. And that's the truth. So in China, it works in a different way, and a much more efficient way, because all the prime ministers of the entire collective West, entirely, yeah, that's a bold statement, none of them would even come close to become a member in the party in the central government of Beijing. None of them. They're not qualified. They probably wouldn't even be qualified to polish the toilets in the government buildings. Honestly. So what do we have? Look at the United States. You have reality star shows, soap stars, movie stars. These are people who, they have their qualities, but it's just not in government. I mean, Trump wanted to make America great again, whatever that means. So did he? He didn't. And now the people voted for him again. And I saw a lot of people crying on TikTok, literally crying, because they couldn't make ends meet. And then they vote for Donald Trump, who promised them to higher the inflation because of putting tariffs on all goods of China and all other nations who want to get rid of the dollar. 100% tariff. That means that everything in the shop will double in price, which means is more inflation. And that is why you should not have people voting for other people on a high place, because they literally have no knowledge. Or you must educate them on politics, which is not the case in the United States. There's no class that teaches you anything about politics. It might only have a class which teach you how they function in the government, but they never have classes about what actually is a democracy, what actually is communism, socialism, and all these other different kind of forms. They don't teach you that. So why do you think that you are qualified to vote for a president? It's the same like you say you get into Amazon and then you tell Jeff Bezos, hey, Mr. Bezos, I'm here to hire the new CEO for Amazon. And he will look at you like, what? You have no experience. Makes sense, right? That he would say that because you have not that experience. So what do you think? What kind of experience in politics do you think that you possess that you can vote for a president, the highest office in your country? It doesn't make any sense, and that is why you're so easily being manipulated, because you have no idea. These people are literally crying. I saw them crying in tears that they cannot make ends meet, and then they vote for a president that tells them that something that costs $10 in his term, it will cost $20. That's what you get with this false idea of a democracy, because it is a false idea. In the end, it is the electoral votes that count, not the popularity vote. So it is not by the people, it is within the government itself. And I mean, and they are being paid by corporates. So now we get to this point that I will explain to you, and I hope you will really, really think of it, how the United States is a dictatorship, and also China, but they differ in two different forms of dictatorships. The United States is a dictatorship by the corporates. The people have no say in the policies, the corporates do. The corporates have the right to just take your constitutional rights away. I'll give you a very simple example. Look at all the social media platforms that are censoring other people, but the Constitution tells you that you have the freedom, the rights of freedom of speech. So if a corporate social media blocks you from something, from saying something, then they are actually violating your constitutional rights, and your government is doing nothing about it. So, therefore, we can honestly say that the corporates are the higher institution above your government and even above the Constitution. Therefore, you live in a dictatorship of corporates. The corporates own everything and you have nothing. And that's how it is in America. Now, the dictatorship in China is different. So we have established already that there's no democracy in the United States, but now I will establish that there is democracy in China, because it is a dictatorship by the proletariat. The people who don't know, that is by the people, right? The non-capitalist people. And that's the overly vast majority. So that is democratic. So in China, it works differently. As I said before, in the beginning, you vote for the lower places in government, like maybe a mayor or whatever, and then they have to climb themselves the way up. But when it comes to policies, the people, the government is polling what the people want. And according to what the people want, they are creating a policies. When they make that draft of a policy, they place it on the internet on a special governmental site, and you as a citizen can log into that and make adjustments to your liking. All citizens. Uh, so, I mean, isn't that democratic? So in China, you have this democracy that the government is actually being run by the people because they determine whether a law comes into effect or not, or how a law should be crafted. They are the crafters of their own laws and policies. It is not the government. The government is simply executing their will. I'll give you an example. There was a time ago, it was also in the Western media, so you can look it up. They wanted to have a policy about not being allowed to wear clothing that would provoke people or would be hateful to other people or whatever. Well, the people didn't want that, so they voted it out, and the policy was deleted. Right before it even came into effect, because the people just didn't want it. They said, "How do you determine that?" And so the government said, "Well, if that's not what you want, then we just delete it." I give you another example. During C-19, with the last lockdown, the people started to protest against that policy. And the government said, okay, then we have to start lifting all those restrictions because you don't want it, and we need to find another way to protect you. That never happened in the United States, right? Remember, in the United States and in the collective West, many protests were going on. And what happened to those protesters? They met the police and the army, and they were beating the crap out of them. That's the God honest truth. I've witnessed it myself. I've witnessed how old ladies were being beaten up with a stick by the police. So yeah, that is the way that Western democracy works. So it's not a democracy because nobody is listening to the people. If they were, this thing, what's happening now in the Middle East, wouldn't be happening because you can look at the amount of protests going on. But the government isn't listening. They just do whatever it is that they are being told to do by the military industrial complex, and that is selling weapons. So here you are. That is why your statement is false. It is indeed true that China is a dictatorship, but you need to define the what kind of dictatorship. And I understand that you don't understand that because you have not been politically educated. What you think that a dictatorship means is one person ruling over everybody, and it must be a bad person. That is not the real definition of a dictatorship. But you don't know that because you are not politically educated. And that's not your fault. It's the fault of your government, especially when that government says you have rights to vote. Then at least they should be educating you on what you are voting for. They should actually educate you very, very deeply into politics, like they do in China. In China, every kid learns about socialism, how it works. So, and when you learn about socialism, you automatically also learn what capitalism is. The kids in China, a school kid, maybe of 15 or 16 years old, knows more about politics and all the different forms of politics and government forms and economic forms than the average adult in the United States or anywhere in the collective West, because we are not being taught that. And you should wonder why we are not being taught. And if you really think deeply about it, then you will understand why. Why is most people in the collective West not satisfied with their government? Why is that? Our governments are underperforming according to what the people say, right? They're not happy. So how is it democratic? If it would be democratic, then the people would be happy because they get what they want. Now in China, the government got probably the highest score in the entire world. Over 94% approval. You don't get that in the United States. It's unheard of, right? You would be satisfied with 30% approval, right? Similarly in the Netherlands or anywhere in the collective West, if you have 30%, it's already a lot, which is a minority. Therefore, it's not democratic. So you need to start to understand, and I'm not attacking you, I'm literally trying to educate you and trying to give you a framework to think of. Don't be fooled by these people that are telling you that you live in a freedom and democracy, because you're not. There's no country with freedom, or all countries have freedom, because every country you have laws, and every country got different laws than its neighbors. It's as simple as that. And every person, every citizen, and every person in that country must abide by the law. Therefore, there is no real freedom. Or everybody has freedom. Do you understand that? So in China, they have different laws than in the United States. But as in China, as in the United States, all citizens must abide by the law. So either if the United States citizens have freedom, then it also goes for China to have freedom. If it means that the people in China have no freedom because they must abide by the law, then all citizens in the United States have no freedom because they must abide by the law. Makes sense, right? You have to start to think on a little bit different level. And I really, really highly recommend you to start to educate yourself on politics, because every time that people are voting, they're voting for things that they don't want, right? Otherwise, if they did, how come that overly vast majority isn't happy? Now, in China, according to the research of, I believe it was Ipsos, I have it in another video. In China, the people have so much happiness that they are ranked #1 in happiness and have an approval rate of 94% of their government. Do you think that would happen if they wouldn't feel free? Or do you think that would happen if they would live in your perception of a dictatorship, like a one person ruling over everybody with an iron fist? Of course it wouldn't. People would be miserable, right? Just as miserable like the people living in the United States or anywhere else in the collective West, because they have no say and the government is not working for them, but is working for the corporates. And again, the reason that I gave you, it sounds very plausible, right? Why can corporates infringe on our freedom of speech, but the government cannot? Ever thought of that? How weird that is? It should be the other way around, right? Because the government establishes the laws, and the laws should apply to everybody in the country, including the corporates. But they don't apply to the corporates. The corporates can apply a separate law on top of that, which is in contradiction to your own constitutional rights, like freedom of speech. You can't say that I'm lying, because everybody is complaining about the censorship, right? Now in China you have censorship, but the censorship is not being done by a corporate. A corporate itself is not allowed to dictate to the people what they can or cannot say. It's by government. And the government is being run by the people. So that's a whole different story then, right? It is what the people want. And the people do want a form of censorship, just like we should want that, because let's be honest, the things that are being promoted on YouTube are very detrimental to our youth, right? We should not have drill rap. We should not have podcasts displaying about criminal activities and glorifying it. Like certain podcasts that have all these gangbangers over and smoking things on the camera, what you should not be doing, and drinking things that you should not be displaying because it's detrimental to the youth, right? In China, the children are being protected from becoming addicted to games, because there's a time limit that companies are allowed to let children play. That's protection for the children. Now, you might argue that's not freedom. Well, it is not. A government should take care of its people. And what we are experiencing in the West with our kids is not a good place to be. Our kids are not being protected. In fact, they are being exposed to everything that's detrimental to them. So, what form of government, what kind of government do you want to have? A government that cares about you, or a government that cares about the profit of the corporates? Well, if you want to have the profit of the corporates, if that's what you care about, then fine. You are having a great time in the United States. You must be very happy with what's happening. But the overly vast majority isn't. That's why you have a crumbling infrastructure. Do you understand that how weird it is that the West is talking about China like a rival, like they trying to always badmouth China and compare themselves to China, and you don't seem to see how weird that is. It is extremely weird because China is a developing nation, and we in the collective West are supposedly a developed nations, right? Why would a developed nation compare itself to a developing nation? If we already can make that comparison, means that we are lacking behind. Because it's outrageous to think that a developing nation can compare itself to a developed nation, or the other way around. That's outrageous to think. It shouldn't be happening. It doesn't make sense. But in fact, that is the case. So when you're talking about a dictatorship by the proletariat seems to be working more for the people than the dictatorship by the corporates, in which probably you live. I assume that you live in the United States or in any other place in the collective West. And I want you to really think about this. And again, I'm not attacking you. I'm just trying to explain to you what really is what. So you tell me, who is more democratic? A country where the policies are being crafted or being approved by the people and being changed by the people, or a country where the government is telling you this is going to happen? Because that is the case in the collective West. Our governments makes a policy and they say this is going to happen and you have to abide by it, with no consultation of the people. China, everything is in consultation with the people. And that is why the people in China always say, in the West, you can change your party, but you cannot change the policies. In China, you cannot change the party, but you can change the policies. And that's the difference in the form of democracy. You can vote for a corporate puppet in the United States and elsewhere in the collective West. And in China, you can vote for somebody who really represents you as a mayor or somebody else, something else in government at a lower level. And they will have to prove to you that they are worthy to be in the central government, right? Because as in the United States, China is also a republic. And a lot of people in America say, well, it's a republic, so obviously it's no democracy. Well, that's not true, because China is also a republic. And that is, again, why I'm telling you, you should educate yourself on politics first and understand, truly understand, and with an open mind, study the matter. Like, I want to know what it is, not I want to view my form of government as the best. No, be very critical. What actually is communism, for example, there's almost nobody in the United States that can answer this question. Most people will say it is where one person rules like the Western emotional attachment to the word dictatorship, like more like a tyrant, right? Which is actually quite the opposite. And that is a simple, very simple um, idea of why the Western people should not even be allowed to vote, because they have no idea what to vote for. They're not qualified to vote. And that is why, exactly why we are in this mess, right? Why do people vote for somebody who has never been in a government to lead the government? That's just literally beyond me. If I go to a supermarket, they ask me for my qualification. But it seems to become a prime minister or the president of a country, you don't need to have a qualification. That's stupid, isn't it? You should have a qualification. It's the highest office in the country. You just vote for somebody because whatever he says, it sounds good to me. It's stupid. Do you see how stupid that actually is? And do you understand why we're in such a mess? Because yes, we are allowed to vote. Not that it matters, and in the United States it doesn't matter. It's the electoral votes that count only, and not the people's vote. That's just for show, to give you the feeling that you live in a democracy. It only gives you the feeling you're allowed to vote. Yes, but your vote doesn't matter. Good luck with your democracy. And that's the God honest truth. And that's also the truth in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands, it works a little bit different. The people's vote do count, but the policies that are promised to us will never come into effect, because we have a different system for that. So we can just the whole entire agenda, which people are essentially voting for, is an agenda, is going to be destroyed after they have created their coalition. It has been like that ever since I was born. And that is why we are not satisfied in the Netherlands, because there's no democracy. Because here they say, we have promised you this and that, but we're not going to do this and that, because we needed to make a concession with the rest of the coalition. And each and every party in the coalition is saying exactly the same to the ones that voted for them. And that's why we also don't have a democracy. It's just all fake. We have a form, like it gives you the feeling that you live in a democracy because you can vote. But what does your vote actually means if they don't do what you want them to do? Then it's just fake. And people in the West should start to realize that. And instead of being hurt because of your big ego, just think about it. Because this is affecting your lives, your children's life, and all the offsprings of them. And it's time for the Western people to start to think and educate themselves in politics. Because it is not what you think it is. And I'm not telling you that you need to become pro-communism or socialist or whatever. I literally am telling you, start to educate yourself. Because the comment that you made is just not making any sense at all. And again, not attacking you, just educating you. Because all the things that I just told you, none of that is that you knew, right? So you've learned something new. Anyway, I'm sorry for this long rant, but it was necessary, and I hope it was helpful to you, and I hope that you appreciate my good heart to you to try to make you understand something about politics. And I hope that this video will be a driving force for all the people in the collective West to start educate yourself, so you can take control of your own country, of your own people. Not in a bad way, but you can also take control of your own destiny. Because all of a sudden you will understand certain things, that the certain policies will not work because of this or that. You will understand you should not be voting for one or the other because this or that. And you can make an argument against your government or towards your government. You can also help your government to improve itself, right? And when you can help your government to improve yourself, to improve themselves, it will be an improvement for all your people in that country. And that is why you need to start to educate yourself. And I hope my video will be your first step to do so. And I hope, therefore, you will like this video. And I hope you will share this video. And I hope you will appreciate it and repost it and do all that fun stuff so my video gets into the algorithm. And I also hope that you have a very nice day. And this was your favorite half Chinese. Thank you. Have a great day.